60,000 people held their breath at exactly the same moment. August 24th, 1993, Bucharest National Stadium. Michael Jackson performing Billie Jean, the song that had defined his career, the dance routine that millions had tried to imitate, the moment in every concert where the king of pop proved why he was royalty. And then a girl in a white dress broke through security and ran onto the stage. 60,000 people watched her sprint across the stage toward Michael Jackson. 60,000 people saw security chasing behind her. Too late to stop what was about to happen. 60,000 people witnessed her reach Michael and kiss him on the cheek. And 60,000 people expected what came next to be ugly, expected Michael to recoil in fear, expected security to tackle the girl violently, expected her to be dragged off stage, arrested, maybe even beaten for daring to touch an international superstar without permission. But what those 60,000 people saw instead was something that would restore their faith in humanity, something that would prove that Michael Jackson wasn't just the king of pop, he was a king in the truest sense. Someone who understood that real power isn't about dominance, it's about grace. But to understand this moment, we need to go back, not just hours, but years. We need to understand who Gabriela Petrov was, why she was willing to risk everything for 2 seconds with Michael Jackson, and what that risk really meant in a country that was still learning how to be free. Gabriela Petrov was born on March 15, 1974, in Bucharest, Romania, during the darkest years of Nicolae Ceausescu's communist dictatorship. Her parents, Anton and Elena, were school teachers who lived in a cramped 2-room apartment with Gabriela and her younger brother, Mihai. They earned barely enough to survive. Food was rationed, electricity was unreliable, hot water was a luxury, and Western culture, music, movies, books, was strictly forbidden. But Anton Petrov had a secret. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard in their tiny apartment, wrapped in plastic to protect it from moisture, was a cassette tape. Not just any cassette tape, but a bootleg recording of Michael Jackson's Thriller album that Anton had obtained from a black market dealer in 1985, risking imprisonment just to own it. Every few weeks, when Anton was certain the neighbors weren't listening, when the secret police weren't conducting random apartment inspections, he would pull out that cassette tape and play it quietly on a small battery-powered player. And Gabriela, just a little girl, would sit mesmerized, listening to sounds unlike anything else in her gray, controlled world. Michael Jackson's music represented everything that was forbidden in Romania: freedom, joy, individual expression, the ability to dance and sing without state approval. In a country where even owning Western music could get you arrested, Michael Jackson wasn't just an entertainer, he was hope in audio form. Someday, Anton would whisper to young Gabriela as Billie Jean played softly through the tinny speaker, "You'll be able to listen to this music freely. Someday, you'll be able to dance however you want. Someday, you'll be free." Gabriela believed him, even when freedom seemed impossible, even when her school teachers taught that the West was evil and corrupt, even when state television showed only propaganda. She believed, because Michael Jackson's music proved that beauty existed somewhere beyond Romania's borders. Then, on December 22, 1989, everything changed. Nicolae Ceausescu was overthrown. The communist dictatorship that had controlled Romania for decades collapsed in a matter of days. Gabriela was 15 years old, and suddenly the music that her father had hidden under floorboards could be played openly. The cassette tape that could have gotten her family imprisoned was now just music. But freedom came with confusion. The economy collapsed. Jobs disappeared. The Petrov family, like millions of Romanians, struggled to survive in a new world where the old rules no longer applied, but new rules hadn't yet been established. Anton lost his teaching position. Elena worked double shifts as a nurse just to keep food on the table. Money was scarce. Hope was scarcer. Through it all, Gabriela held on to one dream: seeing Michael Jackson perform live. It seemed impossible. Why would the biggest star in the world come to Romania, a poor post-communist country still figuring out how to function? But Gabriela dreamed anyway. Then in May 1993, the impossible happened. Michael Jackson announced the Dangerous World Tour would include Bucharest, one night only. August 24th, the first time a major Western superstar had performed in Romania since the fall of communism. Tickets went on sale June 1st. Anton Petrov looked at his daughter's face when the announcement was made and knew what he had to do. He called a family meeting that night. Anton, Elena, Gabriela, and her brother Mihai, now 12 years old, gathered in their small living room. "We're going to that concert," Anton said. "All of us. Front row if possible." Elena started to protest. They didn't have money for concert tickets. They were barely making rent. But Anton shook his head. "For years, I risked prison, just so Gabriela could hear Michael Jackson's music. Now he's coming here. We're going. We'll find the money somehow." And they did. For the next 8 months, the Petrov family saved every spare leu. Anton took on night shifts as a security guard. Elena worked weekends at a private clinic. Gabriela got a part-time job at a flower shop. Mihai collected bottles for recycling money. They stopped eating at restaurants, stopped buying new clothes, stopped spending money on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. By August 15th, 9 days before the concert, they had enough. Anton went to the ticket office and purchased 4 tickets. Not front row, those had sold out in minutes, but row 3, section A, center stage, close enough to see Michael clearly, close enough to feel part of something historic. When Anton brought the tickets home, Gabriela cried. Not sad tears, grateful tears, disbelieving tears. Tears that came from realizing that something she'd dreamed about for years was actually going to happen. August 24th, 1993, arrived. Gabriela woke up at dawn, even though the concert wasn't until evening. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined what it would be like to see Michael Jackson in person. Not on a fuzzy bootleg VHS tape, not in grainy newspaper photos, but real, alive, 10 meters away. She chose her outfit carefully, a white dress her mother had made specifically for this occasion. Simple but elegant. The kind of dress you wear to the most important event of your life. She braided her dark brown hair, applied minimal makeup, wanted to look nice but not overdone. The Petrov family arrived at Bucharest National Stadium. 3 hours before the concert started, the area was already packed with fans. 60,000 people, all gathered for one man. The energy was electric. People wearing Michael Jackson t-shirts, others practicing the moonwalk, some crying just from the anticipation. Getting to their seats took 30 minutes of pushing through crowds, but when they finally reached row 3, section A, Gabriela felt her heart stop. The stage was massive, elaborate, professional, in ways Romanian stages never were. This was real. This was actually happening. At exactly 8:30 p.m., the lights went down. The crowd's roar was deafening, and then Michael Jackson took the stage. The explosion of sound was unlike anything Gabriela had ever experienced. 60,000 people screaming at once. The ground literally shaking. Fireworks exploding. And there he was, Michael Jackson. Real. Alive. Moving with that impossible grace. The concert was everything Gabriela had dreamed it would be, and more. Every song was perfection. Every dance move was magic. Michael's energy never flagged, even though he'd been touring for months. He gave Bucharest the same full effort he'd give London, or New York, or Tokyo. But Gabriela felt something building inside her as the concert progressed. A need, an urgency. Being in row 3 was amazing, but it wasn't enough. She needed to thank Michael somehow. Needed to show him what his music had meant during the darkest years of her life. Needed him to know that his songs had kept her sane when everything else was insane. During the intermission, Gabriela studied the security setup. She'd been observing it since they arrived. Front barrier. Security personnel every 5 meters. But there was a gap, on the left side of the stage, between security positions, maybe 3 meters of space where, if someone was fast enough, they could slip through. "Don't even think about it," her father whispered, reading her expression. "You'll get arrested, or worse." "I have to," Gabriela whispered back. "I've been dreaming about this my whole life. I'll never get another chance." "Gabriela, no. It's too dangerous." But Gabriela had already made her decision. When the second half started, when Michael performed Billie Jean, his signature song, the moment when the entire stadium would be focused on him, she would move. The second half began. Michael worked through several songs, and then the opening synthesizer notes of Billie Jean filled the stadium. 60,000 people screamed. This was the moment everyone waited for. The moonwalk, the spin, the proof that Michael Jackson was superhuman. Gabriela stood up. Her father grabbed her arm. "Don't." She looked at him with eyes that were both apologetic and determined. "I love you, Papa, but I have to do this." And she ran, sprinted toward the barrier, her white dress flowing behind her. Several security guards noticed, started moving to intercept. But Gabriela was 19, young, fast. She reached the gap she'd identified, squeezed through, and suddenly she was on the stage, actually on the stage with Michael Jackson. Victor Dumitrescu, head of security, saw her immediately. "Stage breach, Sector 3, he barked into his radio. "Female subject, moving toward primary, intercept now." 6 security personnel converged on Gabriela's position, but she was faster than they expected. She crossed the stage in 3 seconds. Michael was mid-moonwalk, completely absorbed in the performance. He didn't see her coming until she was right there. Gabriela reached Michael Jackson. Time seemed to slow down. She could see every detail of his face, the concentration, the perfection, the humanity beneath the superstar persona. And she did what she dreamed of doing. She kissed him on the right cheek. Just a brief kiss. 2 seconds of contact, a gesture of pure gratitude and love. Security grabbed her immediately. Strong hands on her arms, pulling her away from Michael. Victor was shouting orders. "Remove her from the stage. Detain for questioning. Call local police." 60,000 people held their breath. Everyone expected what would happen next to be violent, expected Michael to be shocked, frightened, angry, expected security to be rough with this girl who'd broken through barriers and touched an international superstar without permission. But Michael Jackson did something nobody expected. He stopped dancing, raised his hand in a clear gesture that meant stop, and he spoke into his microphone, his voice carrying clearly through the stadium's sound system. "Wait, let her stay." Victor froze. "Sir, we need to remove." "I said let her stay." Michael's voice was gentle but firm. He looked at Gabriela, who was trembling in the security guard's grip, tears streaming down her face. "It's okay. She's not dangerous. She's just a fan." Michael walked over to where security was holding Gabriela. He gestured for them to release her. They did, reluctantly, staying close in case she tried something else. Michael looked at Gabriela with those famous eyes and smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. "What's your name?" he asked, speaking Romanian with the help of a translator who rushed onto stage. "Gabriela," she managed to whisper. "Gabriela Petrov." "Gabriela," Michael repeated, making her name sound beautiful. "Why did you come up here?" Through tears and in broken English mixed with Romanian, Gabriela tried to explain about growing up under communism, about her father's hidden cassette tape, about Michael's music being the only beautiful thing in a gray world, about how Billie Jean and Thriller had given her hope when hope was forbidden. "Your music saved my life," she said simply. "I needed to thank you." Michael's expression softened even more. He reached out and took her hand. Not in a romantic way, in a human way. One person acknowledging another's pain and joy. "Thank you for loving the music," Michael said. "Thank you for being brave enough to show it." Then Michael did something that made 60,000 people gasp. He gestured to his band to restart Billie Jean from the chorus, and he danced with Gabriela, right there on stage. The king of pop and a 19-year-old girl from post-communist Romania dancing together while 60,000 people watched and millions more would eventually see on video. Gabriela barely knew what she was doing. Her body moved on instinct, following Michael's lead. He was gentle, encouraging, making sure she felt comfortable. For 90 seconds, they danced. And for 90 seconds, Gabriela Petrov felt like the most important person in the world. When the song ended, Michael hugged her, a real hug. and he whispered something in her ear that the microphones didn't catch, but that Gabriela would remember for the rest of her life. "You're braver than you know. Never forget that." Security escorted Gabriela off stage after that, but not roughly. Victor himself walked her back to her seat, completely confused about what had just happened. In 20 years of security work, he'd never seen anything like this. "You're lucky," Victor said as they walked. "Very lucky. Mr. Jackson could have pressed charges. You could be in jail right now." "I know," Gabriela said, "but it was worth it." When Gabriela reached her seat, her family was crying. Her father pulled her into a tight embrace. "You crazy girl. You brave, crazy girl." The concert continued. Michael performed several more songs, but every few minutes, he'd look over to where Gabriela sat and smile, acknowledging her, remembering her, proving that she wasn't just another face in a crowd of 60,000. After the concert ended, security came to the Petrov family's seats. Gabriela's heart sank. She was going to be arrested after all, but the security guard smiled. "Mr. Jackson would like to meet Gabriela backstage. Will you come with us?" They were taken to Michael's dressing room. The king of pop was there, still in his stage clothes, drinking water and winding down from the intense performance. When Gabriela entered, he stood immediately. "Gabriela, I'm so glad you came." They talked for 30 minutes about Romania, about music, about what it meant to grow up without freedom. Michael listened, really listened to everything she said. He asked about her family, her dreams, her life. He treated her not like an obsessed fan who'd invaded his stage, but like a person whose story mattered. Before Gabriela left, Michael gave her something, his white glove, the one he'd worn during Billie Jean, the iconic glove that was worth more than Gabriela's family would earn in a decade. "This is for you," Michael said, "for being brave, for showing me that music can still change lives. Keep it. Remember tonight. Remember that you're strong." Gabriela tried to refuse. It was too valuable, too important. But Michael insisted. "It's just a glove, but what you did tonight, standing up, taking that risk, showing that love is stronger than fear, that's forever." The Petrov family left Bucharest National Stadium at midnight. Gabriela clutched the white glove the entire way home, afraid to let it go. When they arrived at their apartment, they stayed up until dawn, replaying everything that had happened, still unable to believe it was real. The next day, the story was everywhere. Newspapers, television, radio. Girl invades stage and kisses Michael Jackson. Some reports called her crazy. Others called her brave. Some suggested she should have been arrested. Others celebrated her courage. But what most people missed was what Michael Jackson had understood immediately. Gabriela wasn't a threat. She was a testament. Proof that music could survive oppression, that beauty could exist even in darkness, that love, when genuine, doesn't need permission. 25 years later, in 2018, a journalist tracked down Gabriela Petrov. She was 44 years old, married, with 2 children. She worked as a teacher in Bucharest, helping students learn English and encouraging them to pursue their dreams even when those dreams seemed impossible. The journalist asked about that night in 1993. Did she regret invading the stage? Was she embarrassed about how obsessed she'd been? Gabriela's answer was simple and clear. Regret it? Never. That was the moment I learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what matters, even when you're terrified. Michael Jackson taught me that. Not with his words, though those were kind, but with his actions. He could have let security hurt me. He could have had me arrested. He could have made me an example of what happens when you cross boundaries. But instead, he showed me grace. He showed 60,000 people that power is most beautiful when it chooses compassion. The white glove still hangs in Gabriela's home, framed and protected. Her children know the story by heart. Her students hear about it when they feel like giving up on their dreams. And sometimes, late at night, Gabriela still plays Billie Jean and remembers the moment when Michael Jackson proved that the most powerful response to love is simply to accept it. On June 25, 2009, when news broke that Michael Jackson had died, Gabriela closed her classroom and cried for hours. The world lost an icon, a legend, the king of pop. But Gabriela lost something more personal. She lost the man who had seen her when she was invisible, who had chosen kindness when he could have chosen anger, who had danced with her when he could have had her arrested. At Michael's memorial service, broadcast worldwide, Gabriela was interviewed by Romanian television. "What do you want people to remember about Michael Jackson?" the interviewer asked. Gabriela's answer was immediate. "Remember that he was more than a performer. He was someone who understood that real power isn't about control, it's about grace. That night in Bucharest, he could have used his power to punish me. Instead, he used it to honor what I was trying to express. Pure love for something that had saved my life. That's what real kings do. They lift up rather than push down." The video of Gabriela invading the stage in 1993 has been viewed millions of times online. People watch it for different reasons. Some find it funny, others find it shocking, but most find it beautiful. Because in those 90 seconds of footage, you can see something rare and precious. A moment when someone took a risk for love, and that risk was met, not with punishment, but with grace. Today, security at concerts is much tighter than it was in 1993. What Gabriela did would be nearly impossible now. But that doesn't mean her story isn't relevant, because the message isn't about breaking security protocols. It's about something deeper. That genuine love deserves recognition, that courage deserves respect, and that the most powerful people are those who choose compassion even when they could choose punishment. August 24th, 1993. Bucharest National Stadium. 60,000 people witnessed a girl in a white dress kiss Michael Jackson on the cheek. They expected what came next to be ugly, expected security to be brutal, expected the consequences to be severe. But Michael Jackson chose grace, chose to see fear and love rather than threat, chose to dance rather than condemn, chose to honor courage rather than punish it. That choice changed Gabriela Petrov's life forever. But more than that, it changed how 60,000 people, and eventually millions more, understood what true power really means. Because real power isn't about dominance. It's about having the strength to be kind when you could be cruel, to show mercy when you could show force, to honor love when you could punish boldness. Michael Jackson was the king of pop, not just because of his talent, but because he understood something that most people in positions of power never learn. That grace is more powerful than control, that kindness is stronger than authority, and that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply dance with someone who's been brave enough to show you love. 60,000 people held their breath, and then they exhaled in amazement, having witnessed something that proved humanity is still capable of beauty, even in unexpected moments, even when security protocols are broken, even when fear seems like the logical response. Because love, when it's genuine, deserves more than punishment. It deserves recognition. It deserves honor. It deserves grace. And on that August night in Bucharest, Michael Jackson gave Gabriela Petrov exactly that. Not just a dance, not just a glove, but something infinitely more valuable. The gift of being seen, acknowledged, and celebrated for having the courage to show that love is stronger than fear.